Okay, Rick, we have a couple of questions in the chat box right now. One is, are all roots created equal? Corn versus soy versus clover, and then probably throw in like a cereal grain.
Oh, sure. All roots are not created equal, absolutely. For improving soil health, grasses, fibrous root systems are much better than tap-rooted species. Soybean is a tap-rooted species. Those roots will add soil organic matter, but not at the same level as fibrous root systems. There's another factor about the fibrous root systems that's important that people don't understand a whole lot. Around every root, we have water being extracted from the soil during the summer days when the plant leaves are transpiring water. So you say, why is that important? Water is absorbed through the root, taken from the soil during the daytime, so the soil around the root is drying. Soils in Iowa have a clay type called montanrillinite. It's an nolitic clay that shrinks and swells as it wets and dries. In this area directly around the root will shrink as it dries during the day. Then at night, when transpiration is no longer occurring, that soil that is dry now gets wet again as water migrates from the area away from the roots, so now it expands. Every day there's a shrinkage and an expansion around these roots. So in addition to getting organic matter delivered from the root to the soil, that shrink and swell improves our soil structural conditions. So absolutely, soil roots are not created equal. The biggest difference is tap roots versus fibrous root systems.
Is any other questions?
So for just a point of clarification, that is really cool to think that the roots in a clay soil especially are sort of behaving like the movement of a worm. Can you kind of, or that heaving, it's almost a heaving sort of action, isn't it? But it's because of that movement, it's helping to stimulate soil aggregation?
Yes, that's exactly right. There are two components. One is like an earthworm, as a root grows through a soil, it pushes soil particles together as that root tip expands. Well, once the root tip is through there, I think more of it like breathing. It's on a 24-hour or a diurnal cycle where you have the soil around the root expanding, shrinking, and at the same time as that root sloughs cells, you have other microbiology working, releasing polysaccharides around that root surface. So it's a very lively, it's a very dynamic, it is the dinner plate. Around that root is the dinner plate for active microbes, as well as this sweating and drying, shrinking and swelling process.
So neat, that combination, movement and chemical, wow. I'd love to see that movie.
I would too.
Okay, I'm going to check one question, how do we speed up regeneration?
Well, the fastest way to speed up regeneration is to grow crops that add copious amounts of organic matter to the below ground area. Prairies. Why were our original soils black, highly productive? Those soils, the majority of the biomass grows underground. The corn and soybeans and other commodity crops have been bred so that the material that is photosynthesized is in a position we can harvest it and sell it. So just based on the need of the individual to make money, the types of crops we typically use in commercial ag puts the material above ground where it's accessible for sale. It doesn't focus so much on maintaining that soil resource. So getting crops that the prairies also greatly reduce soil erosion. So those those types of crops with the greatest amount of biomass underground will actually allow us to accelerate the regeneration the most.
Okay, Brian has a question. What are your thoughts on the importance of contribution of microbial necromass, the dead microbe goo, to soil organic matter levels?
That's a very good question, and the answer is it's very important. Understand that, you know, we lose 60% of the, roughly 60% of the organic material that's in the roots the first year. Well, we lose it dominantly because it's a process of oxidation. It's like burning, like you burn wood in a fire, but it's really, really slow. The carbon dioxide is released, most of it, but part of it is retained in the microbes themselves. The microbes exude a kind of a liquid material, polysaccharide sugars. That's basically what a polysaccharide is. And that material is not very resistant, but it really feeds into the microbial processes that are occurring. Other microbes then feed on that. Then these glues are the beginning point of soil structure formation. You have to have clays to have soil structure, and that's a heavier physical chemistry discussion later. But they're incredibly important. The other thing is, if you have a soil that is rich in microbes, those microbes are somewhat like the canary in the coal mine. If you have a soil in which microbes won't survive, or they're not active, how do you expect a crop root to grow and be active? If that canary in the coal mine is alive, chirping and well, that means everything else should be doing well too. And so therefore, that's one of the main reasons that we use soil microbial activity as an indicator of soil health.
Okay, there's another question came in from Laura. Is there data or research demonstrating the difference in speed of soil organic matter building when manure is used as the nutrient source with supplemental fertilizer to meet specific crop needs versus fertilizer only?
Yeah, there is. Fact is, quite a bit of that research has been done. It's been done years gone by. The source of the nutrient is not so much critical as is the fact that in the manure application, organic matter is the carrier of the nutrient. And that nutrient is released out of manure. We're talking barnyard manure as opposed to the water-based manures, many that are applied now. The chemistry, biology of the soil in terms of its impact on soil microbial activity is synchronized with the growth activity of crop roots. In other words, as the soil warms during the year, more microbes are available to decompose that organic matter in the manure and release the nutrients. That's not necessary with most organic forms of N that's applied. So I'm getting a little bit away from that question, but yes, there is research, and it shows what you'd expect. Copious amounts of manure raises the organic matter, and I said before that the main source of organic matter is crop roots. When we're applying barnyard manure, in most situations, it's being incorporated. So if you incorporate barnyard manure versus incorporate ammonium nitrate, well, you're not going to use ammonium nitrate, but urea or other forms of inorganic of fertilizers, the organic forms, yes, will raise soil organic matter.
Okay, thank you. Todd has a question. How does humus fit into our carbon build systems with organic matter improvement?
I'm going to try to tear that question apart. How does humus fit into our carbon built systems? Well, humus is basically another word for resilient organic matter. So if you're building a carbon built system, I'm assuming you're talking about the soil. You are building carbon. It's pretty much one and the same. My understanding, if you're building humus in your soil, you're increasing the soil carbon and organic matter content.
Okay, we had another one come in. I don't know if you can see these, Rick, if you can, or you want me to just keep reading them?
Okay, I can read. I've got them in front of me.
Okay.
So from Rebecca Power, what is the difference between barnyard manure and manure with higher water content for building soil organic matter? Big difference. Barnyard manure typically is a combination of straws, fecal material, material that is easily decomposed, material that is more resistant to decomposition. It has a much higher soil organic, or a much higher organic matter content. So the capacity to increase soil organic matter simply by the amount of material that's added per ton of manure applied versus amount of dry matter added to a ton of water-based manure is drastically different. And the capacity to build soil organic matter is based on the amount of organic material being added to the soil itself. So therein lies the big difference. Now, you might be able to add enough liquid to, in a, say, a swine or a feedlot operation that's water-based, but the material that you have there is quite readily decomposed. You don't have the straws and the other more resistant carbon material embedded within that decomposes more slowly. And the more resistant material tends to help build soil organic matter much faster. From Bill or Stengel, what is the shoot to root ratio of our typical perennial forage crops? You know, Bill, I'm going to give you a shot in the dark because that's one I did not look up before this. Most of those are at least 50-50 or 0.5. The perennials in the prairies, you know, I'm aware of those. Those are 0.6 to 0.8, so that the majority of the material is above ground or underground. Now, the one thing, if you're dealing with alfalfa, a significant part of that is pretty deep in the soil. Those taproots go fairly deep, and nothing wrong with increasing organic matter content in those depths. In fact, if you've got hard pans, they may be good for the overall production. But the legume grass mixes will give you a more favorable soil organic matter content near the surface, and the types of grasses we're talking about in terms of, you know, forages, you know, we're looking at 0.4 to 0.6 as a root shoot ratio. My recollection, don't write that one in concrete, but much more favorable than the grain crops where we're harvesting grain and letting the rest go.